Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse James. And it's time for another installment of How to Play the Accelerated Dragon. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at the Bishop E2 mainline variation whenever you play against the Accelerated Dragon. Well, here we go. Again, when I look at this line, although it is a classical way to set up, I definitely do not think this is the most promising way for white to play. In this game, we're going to be seeing, black just getting a very good game against it. Here we go. E4, C5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes, knight takes, pawn to g6, accelerated dragon, knight c3, bishop g7 attacking the knight, bishop e3 to defend, knight f6, bishop e2, and castles. And here again, with the bishop on e2, this just helps black get that move in that gets an equal, if not better, game. What do you play here? Hopefully you accelerated dragon players know what to play here. Of course, we play the move that gives us an equal game, if not just winning, pawn to d5. Now the bishop is going to be let out. Also, we're getting rid of white's only pawn in the center. All right, here we go. E takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5, and now white plays bishop f3. Again, this is one of the most critical variations. As you see, the white bishop does look very good on the diagonal, and you see these guys over here are just attacking. All right, well, the queen has to move here, and again, if you don't know the move here, it is kind of hard to find. But, well, go ahead and push pause if you want to. Where do you move the queen, and where's the best square for her to move to? You know you got to defend this knight over here because we got two attackers over here. So what do you play? Well, hopefully you push pause. Hopefully you try to figure it out. Here we actually play queen to a5 exclam. This is something that was found by the computer and that I've been playing ever since. With that being said, I used to play queen c4 against this earlier, and it's not a terrible move. After knight takes c6, b takes c6, it's an okay way to play. After something like pawn c3, yeah, I mean, I was getting good games with it, but this queen a5 line is definitely just a bit better for it. And after this queen a5 move, well, you have to ask yourself, well, can't they just take on c6 over here? Well, they definitely can, but, you know, the juror's out. It doesn't really do too much for him. You end up winning the pawn, but you're going to lose it right back because of this b2 weakness, because a lot of times, you know, we're just going to be attacking on the queen side, and these bishops are going to do a great job by attacking it. All right, here we go. Knight takes on c6, b takes on c6, and pawn to c3. Okay, well, we can also take a look at the other variation real quick, which is the bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes. Now, already I don't like this line too much for white, just because, well, you lost the bishop pair already. And, well, after queen c7, it is black who's just in the better position here. Trying to hold on to both of these pawns is just going to be too difficult for you. And in all variations, black is just better in these lines. Feel free to take a look at it with the computer, but I think you'll come to the same conclusion as I do, and also the computer does for this variation. With that being said, back to the main line. B takes on c6, and, well, pawn c3 got played. What was wrong with bishop takes on c6? Well, here you just give free tempos to attack, but here we just play rook over to b8, and, well, there's really no good way to defend this pawn. And I think in the other game that we take a look at, queen d5 does get tried here, but it doesn't work out too well at all. So here white played pawn c3, trying to just hold on to the pawns here and keep the structure solid. The c6 is an isolated pawn, although we do have our own trump, which is that, well, we have an extra pawn in the center. You can see that black can push these pawns forward and start making kingside advancements. All right, so c3 gets played, rook b8 attacking the pawn, and this is what it's all about. Well, if this pawn moves, then c3 becomes weak. So these guys just become the targets for white over here. I mean for black. Queen c1 got played. A lot of natural moves here to defend the pawn do not do too well. I mean, rook b1 is going to be losing for queen takes in a2, and even bishop to f5 over here. What's another idea? You could try queen c2. Again, you'll see bishop f5 gets played with a nice tempo here, and the queen has to move already. So here, you know, white goes ahead and tries queen c1 here, not letting this dark square bishop jump into it. Queen c7 got played. An interesting move here. Definitely not one of my top choices if I'm looking at this position. I definitely would have been thinking about rook d8, or at least try to bring the bishop out over here. But queen c7 does have an idea. After rook e1, the idea was, well, I had mentioned, well, the pawn structure over here is a little messed up. We have what's called the kingside majority, so we're going to do it. Pawn to e5 push, bishop d1, bishop to e6, bishop c5, rook to d8. Here, we're going to slowly start pushing these pawns forward. And bishop b3 got played, bishop to d5. Now you could go ahead take care here on b3, but after pawn takes, well, you see that the a7 pawn becomes weak. So even after rook takes b7, rook takes a7. You know, I wouldn't say black is worse here. The only thing I would say is you're giving your opponent more compensation, or a better position by letting them attack you. Let's try to restrain and maintain. So after this, I like this bishop d5 move saying, hey, take here and give me 2 center pawns. But white was fighting back. White played queen e3, attacking the a7 pawn. Pawn to a5, a very, very typical idea, which is very strong here. What's the idea? We want to play a4 and again play rook takes on b2 here. We're more than happy to sacrifice the a pawn because once this b pawn falls, the a and c pawn then become isolated and then they just become targets. All right, here we go. Pawn c4 exclam. Of course, you don't want to make a trade like this. Bishop back to e6 and rook to d1 here. a4 exclam. Again, we don't mind this temporary sacrifice. Rook takes on a4. Maybe even bishop takes on c4 now. Rook takes d8, queen takes on d8. I think they did this because if rook takes on d8, after bishop takes on a4, well now, you could take on c4 here, but I definitely just don't like this. Also, ooh, this bishop b6 idea would be bad too, right? Winning with a nice skewer right here. So back over here, that's why the queen takes on d8. Bishop takes on a4, rook takes on b2. Here, black's becoming very active now, and he's definitely messed up the pawn chain here. Rook to d1, nice tempo off the queen. Queen to a5. The queen's doing a great job by putting pressure over here on the queen side. Bishop b3, h5 exclam. It's always good to have a back way out. You never really want to be having this bishop coming back because you're just going to be losing because the bishop's already controlling over here. So back rank ideas are definitely in the air. You definitely don't want your queen to be handling that situation the whole time. h3, king h7. Bishop to b6, queen to a6, putting pressure on c4. Bishop c7, bishop takes c4, bishop takes on e5, and rook e2 exclam. Here we see that, well, we have a nice skewer again. Only one move to play here. Bishop takes c4, and queen takes c4, queen to d4. A nice way to get out of this. Unfortunately for them, they are going to be losing a pawn now. Queen takes, bishop takes, rook takes, bishop takes, king takes. And, well, for all intents and purposes, this is really good chances for black to win the game. And as you guys have been watching throughout these videos, if you're going to be playing the Accelerated Dragon, even though this is an aggressive system, you still need to be a good endgame player. And the idea here is very simple. We're going to be pushing this c pawn forward and using our king and rook to get it across the board. If the king goes a little too far, then our king can always switch or the rook can switch to attack over here. And that's just the two weaknesses principle. This guy over here either gets across the board because white was not defending it correctly, or they defend too much, and then we can actually attack over here on the king side too. Let's see how the master does it. Rook c1, rook a6, king f1, king f6, king e2, king e6, king f3, rook a3 check, king to e4, rook check, king over to d6. And here you can see the first part's been done. Now black is going to slowly start pushing his pawn up now that the king has reached over here. All right, f3. Yeah, try not to move pawns over here. The only thing that this did was actually make the second rank weak, which means later on the pawn's going to have to be pushed forward. So, yep, this is just adding more weaknesses. Whenever you are defending in these kind of positions, try to just maintain your pawn structure. Any pawn move can create holes and let your opponents let your opponent get into your position. c5 exclam, pass pawns must be pushed. Rook d1 check, king to c6, rook to d8, rook to a7, rook to f8. I'm not sure what that move did. Here we go, rook to d7 exclam. The idea is that now the king wants to go to d5 after any kind of rook checks and keep pushing the pawn. g4, I'm sure black was happy to see this. Pawn c4, pawn takes, rook over. Pawn c3 exclam, pass pawns must be pushed. Here we go. Rook check, rook c7, and rook over to d8. Someone might be asking, hey, can't we just trade down and go to a winning endgame? Unfortunately, this is an easily winning king upon endgame. After rook takes king to d3, king d6, king takes, king e5, king d3, king f4, king e2, king g3, and now you see that this pawn will fall and this pawn will be pushed forward here. Oof. Very nice endgame technique. That's why it's so important that you study your king upon endgame so you know whenever you can transpose or trade down into winning endgames. All right, back to the game. Rook to d8 got played because, well, they couldn't trade down. King to b5, rook b8 check, king to a4, and, well, that's all she wrote. Unfortunately, this king cannot get in front of the pawn fast enough. At this point, white just went ahead and resigned. Something like rook over to b1, c2 gets played, rook c1, king b3, king to d2, and, well, you can add the check in first, king over, and then king over, and, yep, the c1 square is lost. Well, guys, hope you enjoyed this. This is one of the harder variations for white to play against you. Whenever they play the classical line of bishop e2, remember, just go ahead and castle. Castle, play d5, get the equal game, and after pawn takes, knight takes, if they do try this knight takes, queen takes, bishop f3, we have in our bag queen to a5 exclam. And again, don't worry about losing the pawn over here. You're just going to bring your rook over and you'll start attacking on the queenside pawns. And the worst case scenario, you should be equal, if not better. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you in the next one.